Alright, hello guys. In this video, we're going to be talking about our next potential for a big major winter storm coming up for the central portions of the United States. And actually, this one has great potential to even be a blizzard. We'll talk more about that when we take a look at our wind and snowfall towards the end of the video. But before I get started with this video though, I would ask that you do subscribe if you do like weather related content, and also make sure to share this one with your friends and family if they live in the affected regions, as this information does help people a lot, especially with the traveling that's going to be going on around this time frame afterwards after Christmas. Now let's get started. First off, gonna wish you guys a very Merry Christmas. It's a beautiful day today, but we are talking about the potential for a big winter storm, like I mentioned before, in a couple of days. So looking at our current map that I have on screen here, this is our storm track map for the 27th through the 30th. That's the main time frame that I'm expecting to see the potential for snow here. Let's add our first layer here, and you can see this is our snowstorm likely region. We're expecting a snowstorm within this region. It could be a little bit further east, and it could be a bit further west as well. Keep in mind this is 2 days out, so this could be pretty far further east or pretty far further west, but this looks like the most likely track at this point. And we even have a second layer here, and this is our blizzard possible region, which is where I'm expecting a great potential for blizzard conditions at least, and I would not be surprised whatsoever if we do see a ton of blizzard warnings within this region as we get closer to this storm. So we're going to take a look at our Futurecast radar in just a second, and then we'll take a look at our wind and total snow expected afterwards after that. Alright, so we'll be taking a look at our GFS model's simulated radar here. We can see that the low pressure system, as we start out on Saturday, December 28th morning time, is located around Kansas and Oklahoma. Keep in mind the GFS keeps it the furthest east out of any of the models. The European has a much more western route, and I'm going to show you this total snowfall on both of these models here. We see we have a 999 millibar low pressure system to start things off. It's going to get much lower than that, as this looks to be a very potent low pressure system here in a major storm. So we can see snow is already falling for Colorado and portions of Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, and Minnesota. But we are going to move on one more frame, and you can see it really elongates out, and the low pressure system is becoming lower and lower. We have a 995 millibar low pressure system at this point in central Kansas, and we have moderate snow throughout Colorado, and then up through portions of Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, and then into Minnesota and northern Wisconsin now, as again, it's elongating and bringing snow to more and more regions. Let's move on one more, and you can see it's a lot of the same story, except we start to see more of the central regions of Nebraska and Kansas get some moderate snowfall, even heavy snowfall near the low pressure system as well, and it's a 994 millibar low pressure system at this point. Now we're about to move on even further, and our low pressure system is going to continue to intensify even more. Going to be very cool to see that happen, and we're going to see more heavy snow for a lot more regions here in the central United States, so stay tuned. Alright, you can see on this frame, this is by time we're into Saturday night finally, maybe heading into the 29th of December by this point, probably around midnight or 1 a.m. here, and it's a 992 millibar low pressure system by this point. We see moderate snow from central Kansas up through the eastern portions of Nebraska, eastern portions of South Dakota, and then the very western portions of Iowa and some of the sections in western and central Minnesota as well, getting very heavy snowfall. Now the European, if I were to show that one simulated radar, which is a little bit harder to get a hold of, we would see South Dakota and North Dakota getting more of the snowfall, and the low pressure system would be located a bit further west. Again, on the total snowfall map, that will be very apparent, and you'll be able to get a much better view of what that model is expecting. Let's move on one more frame, and this is going to be heading towards Sunday 29th morning time, and this is a 986 millibar low pressure system by this point. Very intense storm on this model. We see moderate snow from Nebraska, that's eastern Nebraska, western Iowa, then eastern South Dakota and western Minnesota through central and northern Minnesota especially. Very heavy snowfall at this point, and we are getting a lot of winds at this point as well, actually. So this is going to be coupled with possibly blizzard conditions by this time frame on this model here. So let's move on one more frame, and it's a 985 millibar low pressure system here by Sunday evening, maybe around sunset on Sunday, and it's going to be heading towards December 30th. We can see the temperature goes down, and we start to see snow for Illinois, a lot more of Wisconsin, and portions of Iowa that we're mostly seeing rain. So we start to see a lot of areas switch to snow, and we're still experiencing heavy snow for Wisconsin and Minnesota. Again, by this point, the low pressure system on the European would be located more over Minnesota and bringing heavy snow to the Dakotas. So that's the major difference with these two models. Now we're about to head on for a couple more frames and see what the simulated radar is showing, and then we're going to get more towards our total snowfall and even the wind here, as we're going to take a look at our European model as well. All right, as you can see, our low pressure system moves into the upper peninsula of Michigan. There is a 987 millibar low pressure system, and this is maybe by, I would say, about 2 or 3 a.m. on Monday, December 30th. And we see Michigan starting to get some snow, probably lake effect enhanced by this point, but Wisconsin, the upper peninsula, Minnesota still getting snowfall by this point. And as we move on one more, we can see by time we're into Monday evening, December 30th, it's really just snow showers and lake effect snow going on. And our low pressure system is all the way up there in Canada, so it's pretty much all said and done for the United States by this point. So let's go ahead and take a look at your total snowfall on the GFS model. In our purples, we're looking at about 3 to 6 inches of snow. The blues is anything below that. Our pinks is 6 to 12 inches, and then the green is 12 to 24 inches of snow. We see some of that for portions of Nebraska, South Dakota, and Minnesota. I'll get more into that, but you can see most of our snowfall there is on the border of Colorado and Kansas, and then up through the borders of Nebraska, Iowa, South Dakota, and Minnesota, that kind of area down there. And then through the central portions of Minnesota up through northern Minnesota as well. Very widespread area of 6 to 12 inches of snow. And then a pretty good chunk of area that has 12 to 24 inches of snow there for Minnesota, South Dakota, and Nebraska, like I said. But as we take a look at our European model, we see a big difference. Again, that snowfall is going to be much further west on the European model. We're taking a look at it here, and you can see we see basically no snow for Kansas. So that's the biggest difference right off the bat. But northeastern Colorado through the very western portions of Nebraska, through almost all of South Dakota and half of North Dakota, and then only the very northern portions of Minnesota, we see much more snowfall on this model. This model has a ton more snow with this system and has it lingering a lot longer. We see 24 inches plus for some regions there in South Dakota. North Dakota also getting a ton of snow. Anywhere in the pinks, you're basically over 12 inches, 12 to 24 inches. As it gets more towards those white shades there in South Dakota and North Dakota, that's where we're a lot closer to 24 inches. So just a ton of snow, very widespread, 10 inches plus, looking like a much more major snowstorm on the European. And the amazing thing is on the GFS model, it's also a very major snowstorm. It's just the European is about twice as major. An absolute major storm, probably would be one of the biggest snowstorms of the year if the European were to verify here. And I wanted to talk more about why am I considering this a potential blizzard, because you probably saw in the title, and also I've mentioned it a few times, potential blizzard. You're probably wondering, why are you going to go ahead and call that now? So we're going to look at our simulated radar on the European, and this is why I don't use this. I don't think it looks quite as good. But here's what it would look like if I used the Futurecast radar on the European model. We see very heavy snow in South Dakota and North Dakota by this point. This is going to be Sunday, December 29th, kind of the evening time, maybe late afternoon, evening. And we see, again, pay attention to those areas with heavier snow, South Dakota, North Dakota, and a little bit of Minnesota. Now let's take a look at your wind. This is your sustained wind. In those yellows, oranges, and reds, that's where we're looking at 30 to 40 mile per hour sustained winds. That is completely whiteout conditions in those areas that also had very heavy snow. And your gusts in these orange and yellows, your gusts are around 50 to 60 mile per hour gusts. Just absolute blizzard for these regions on this model. The GFS doesn't have quite as much wind, but the European absolutely crushes the Dakotas and Minnesota with a major blizzard. So we're going to have to keep a very close eye on this one. I'm very excited to track this one. Expect multiple uploads for this storm. Obviously, I haven't made a total snowfall map yet that I've made myself. That's a video for the future, but I'm definitely going to do it. I'm very excited to track this one, like I said, as we haven't had a very major snowstorm in quite a while. It's been a little while here. We've had a little bit of a lull. So I'm very excited to track this one with you guys and make plenty of videos. And Anyway, very Merry Christmas to you guys. I hope you guys enjoy it. I wanted to bring a video to you guys, even though it's Christmas, but I just love uploading every day. It's one of my favorite things to do during the day. Anyway, I hope you really enjoyed the video. Be sure to share it with your friends and family, like I said, if they live in the affected regions, and I'll see you guys in the next video.